What if I told you that the toxic family you were born into wasn't a mistake, but a gift? Yes, as difficult as it may have been, your soul chose this path for a greater purpose. Have you ever felt different? You didn't belong in your own family? That's not a coincidence, it's a calling. You came to break patterns, heal ancestral wounds, and transform pain into wisdom. But hold on, I know this might sound absurd. After all, how could something so painful be positive? The answer lies in what no one tells you. The chosen ones don't come for an easy life. They come to awaken. And your family was the first and most intense training ground. Every betrayal, rejection, and criticism didn't happen to destroy you, but to strengthen you. You may not see it now, but believe me, there's a much bigger reason behind your story. So before jumping to conclusions, I want to show you the truth behind your family pain. I'll explain why this happened to you, what your role in this cycle is, and most importantly, how to turn this baggage into power. Because yes, there is a path to healing, and it begins when you start seeing all of this from a different perspective. Now tell me, have you ever felt like you were born into the wrong family? You were the only one who could see certain patterns? I want to hear your story in the comments, and stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal might completely change the way you see your journey. At first, it seems absurd to think that someone would choose to be born into a toxic family, doesn't it? But what if that choice was part of a greater plan? Many believe that before incarnating, souls choose specific challenges to accelerate their spiritual growth. In this way, being born into a dysfunctional family wouldn't be a punishment but a training ground. The difficulties faced in this environment serve as intensive lessons that shape strength, resilience, and awareness. After all, how would someone learn to shine if they never experienced darkness? The chosen ones, those who have always felt different from the rest of the family, carry a mission. From an early age, they realize they don't fit the mold, they think differently, and they have a strong desire for change. This sense of not belonging isn't random, it's a call to awaken. Often they develop a sense of responsibility that leads them to question destructive behaviors and seek answers that most people prefer to ignore. This inner drive is no coincidence, it's an internal compass guiding them towards something greater. And what about the pain? It doesn't come without purpose. Every difficult experience within the family serves to activate dormant parts of consciousness. For example, growing up in a neglectful environment can awaken a deep sense of empathy and compassion for others. Homes filled with conflict can push an individual to seek inner peace. What seems like a curse is actually preparation. A jeweler only polishes diamonds, and the chosen ones are exactly that, souls that undergo intense processes to shine. What's most interesting is that over time, many people discover they had exactly the tools needed to overcome everything. Little by little, they realize that their family's toxicity didn't destroy them. It shaped them. Their family pain wasn't a mistake of fate, but a strategic push to break old cycles and start a new journey of awareness. But to do that, they first need to recognize the hidden dynamics and understand how each piece of this puzzle fits together. Imagine a warrior who has never faced a battle. How would they develop strength, strategy, and courage? In the same way, the chosen ones are born into toxic families because they need to be trained for something greater. The challenges they face early on teach resilience, emotional intelligence, and the ability to break limiting patterns. These experiences shape an unbreakable spirit, one that learns to turn pain into wisdom. At first, it may seem unfair, but over time, they realize that this environment was exactly what forged the strength needed to fulfill their mission. Many who were born into dysfunctional families carry the feeling of being different, the ones who refuse to follow the destructive flow. They recognize toxic patterns that others normalize, question absurd family rules, and feel a strong urge to seek something beyond. This happens because their purpose isn't to fit in, it's to transcend. The pain of rejection or isolation often serves as fuel to awaken their true essence. After all, a diamond only shines after being polished. The great secret lies in transformation. Many spend their lives trying to fix their family or seeking recognition from those who don't know how to love. But real power emerges when they realize that the goal was never to change others, but to strengthen themselves through what they've lived. It is at the moment when the chosen one stops seeking approval and starts creating their own identity that true growth begins. They stop being victims of circumstances and become the architects of their own reality. And when that happens, something magical unfolds. Instead of being crushed by the weight of family, the chosen one becomes living proof that breaking the cycle is possible. Their journey serves as inspiration for others still trapped in the same chains. What was once suffering now becomes purpose. But for that to happen, they first need to understand how these patterns originated and why their family repeats the same mistakes generation after generation. What happens within a toxic family didn't start with you. Many of the destructive dynamics you witness have been passed down through generations, like an invisible inheritance. Parents who didn't know how to love, grandparents who lived in scarcity, great-grandparents who carried unresolved traumas, all of this accumulates and manifests in the descendants. The chosen one is born into this exact context because their mission is different. They came to break this cycle and bring new awareness to their lineage. Many times, toxic family patterns disguise themselves as tradition, or this is just how things have always been. This can manifest in behaviors such as emotional abuse, manipulation, lack of affection, or limiting beliefs about money, love, and success. Who hasn't heard phrases like, "In our family, no one has a good marriage," or "money is only for dishonest people"? These ideas aren't absolute truths, but ancestral traumas repeating themselves. And the first step toward healing is recognizing, and then with clarity, the chosen one's role is not to carry this burden, but to transform it. This means that instead of repeating the same patterns or running from them, they have the opportunity to face them with awareness. This can be done through self-knowledge, therapy, spiritual practices, or simply by changing the way they react to family conflicts. When someone decides to act differently, the cycle begins to dissolve. Healing doesn't happen from the outside in, but from the inside out. And the most incredible part, when the chosen one begins this healing process, they don't just transform themselves, they also influence those around them. Even if the family doesn't change immediately, something starts to shift. Small acts of self-love and courage become seeds that can bloom in future generations. But for this to happen, one must first understand how family dysfunction reflects unresolved internal wounds. Family relationships act as a mirror, reflecting inner wounds that have yet to heal. Everything that bothers us most about our families' behavior may actually be a sign of aspects within ourselves that need attention. For example, if someone feels deep anger toward manipulative parents, it may be time to examine their own struggles with setting boundaries. If abandonment is a recurring wound, there may be an unconscious pattern of accepting less than they deserve. The external world always reflects what is happening inside. This mirror effect can be difficult to accept. After all, no one likes to think that what hurts them most has an internal root, but instead of blaming themselves or feeling powerless, the key is to use this reflection as a tool for transformation. Every family conflict can be an opportunity for self-awareness. Observing emotional reactions and questioning where these feelings come from allows the chosen one to break free from automatic patterns. The problem is never just in the other person. There is always something to be understood within. When this awareness takes hold, reactions start to change. Instead of getting caught up in endless arguments, the chosen one begins to act with consciousness. Instead of seeking validation from those who never knew how to give it, they learn to strengthen themselves internally. The family's behavior may stay the same, but its impact lessens. The greatest victory is not changing others, but no longer being affected in the same way. And as a result, family toxicity loses its power to control emotions. Over time, this internal shift reflects externally. When the chosen one changes their vibration, the relationships around them also adjust. Some bonds strengthen, while others naturally fade away. What once seemed like an inevitable destiny now becomes a conscious choice. But for true liberation to occur, one must stop trying to fix the family and start healing themselves. One of the most common traps for those born into a toxic family is trying to fix it. The chosen one, because they see the problems more clearly, often takes on the mission of changing their parents, healing their siblings, and bringing awareness to those who don't want to see. But this effort, besides being exhausting, almost always leads to frustration. That's because no one changes unless they are ready to change. And in most cases, the family doesn't want to be saved. They want everything to stay the same. True power lies in changing oneself. When the chosen one stops wasting energy trying to fix others and focuses on their own healing, something extraordinary happens. They break the cycle. Instead of repeating family patterns of abuse, manipulation, or emotional scarcity, they choose a different path. This may mean setting healthy boundaries, cutting ties when necessary, developing self-love, and reprogramming inherited beliefs. Personal transformation creates a domino effect. At first, this decision can be difficult. Feelings of guilt and fear of abandonment often arise. After all, for years, loyalty to family was taught as an unquestionable duty. But breaking the cycle doesn't mean hating or rejecting one's family. It means freeing oneself from what causes harm. It's possible to love without submitting to abuse, to forgive without continuing to accept disrespect, and to wish the best for others without needing to be present at all times. True transformation begins when one prioritizes their own well-being without guilt. And the most surprising thing? When the chosen one heals, they become living proof that there is another way to live. Even those who initially resist may, over time, be influenced by this new energy. Some family members may begin to rethink their own behaviors. Others, who are not ready to change, will naturally drift away. But one thing is certain. By healing themselves, the chosen one creates a new reality where past wounds transform into wisdom. And each of these pains carries an essential lesson for this journey. Every pain carries a message. In the heat of family conflicts, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that everything is just meaningless suffering. But what if every difficult experience held an essential lesson for the chosen one's growth? Rejection can teach self-sufficiency. Betrayal can awaken discernment. Lack of love can lead to the greatest discovery of all, self-love. Nothing happens by chance, and those who understand the lessons behind their pain can transform it into power. Family pain often teaches through repetition. The same patterns of abandonment, humiliation, or devaluation tend to appear in different phases of life. It seems unfair, but in reality it's a test. Until the chosen one learns the lesson and breaks the pattern, the situation will keep repeating. It's like a teacher insisting on the same question until the student finally understands. Once the lesson is learned, life stops repeating the same struggles and starts presenting new opportunities. But how can one identify the lesson behind the pain? Simply by observing recurring patterns. If the feeling of not being enough always arises, perhaps it's time to strengthen self-esteem. If toxic relationships keep repeating, there may be a lesson about boundaries and self-love. The key is to change the response to these situations. Instead of reacting the same way, choose a new path. True transformation happens when one learns to act consciously rather than repeating old reactions. And the most incredible part, by integrating these lessons, the perception of family also changes. What once seemed like mere suffering begins to be seen as intense training for evolution. The chosen one realizes they are not doomed to carry these wounds forever. They can use them as fuel to become the best version of themselves. And there is a powerful tool to accelerate this transformation: forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful keys to breaking free from family toxicity. But here's the secret: forgiving doesn't mean justifying what was done or allowing the same pattern to continue. True forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. Holding on to resentment is like carrying an invisible weight that drains your energy and keeps you tied to the past. When you release this burden, your soul becomes light and free to follow its own path. Many people resist forgiveness because they feel it would mean giving reason to those who hurt them. But in reality, forgiving is about taking control of your own story. It's looking back and saying, "This happened, it hurt me, but it doesn't define who I am." Forgiveness doesn't require contact with those who caused harm, nor does it mean reconciliation. In many cases, the best way to forgive is from a distance, respecting your own boundaries and protecting yourself from further wounds. A powerful exercise for this process is writing a forgiveness letter. Not to send, but to release yourself. In it, you can express everything you've felt, all the pain you've carried, and in the end, declare that these emotions no longer have power over your life. Then tearing or burning the letter symbolizes the closing of this cycle. It's a symbolic act, but one that has a profound impact on both the mind and heart. And when forgiveness happens, something magical is revealed. The pain stops being a chain that ties you to the past and transforms into wisdom for the future. The chosen one realizes they no longer react to the same provocations, that certain words no longer affect them as they once did. True freedom is not about changing the family, but about no longer being a prisoner of what happened. And when this level of liberation is reached, a new path begins to unfold. Not everyone is born to break cycles, but the chosen ones are. From an early age, they feel that their journey is different, that they came into the world for something greater. Even without fully understanding why, they carry a strong desire for transformation and evolution. At first, this mission may feel like a burden, but as they develop awareness, they realize it's a gift. After all, they are the ones who bring light to places where only darkness once existed. The path of the chosen one is not easy. It requires courage to question imposed truths, strength to break free from harmful patterns, and patience to face the pain that arises in the process. However, each step on this journey brings immeasurable rewards. The more the chosen one heals, the more they access their true essence. And over time, they realize that the greatest change doesn't happen in the external world, but within themselves. One of the biggest signs that someone is on this path is when they stop seeking external validation. The chosen one understands that they don't need their family's approval to follow their purpose. They learn to listen to themselves, trust their intuition, and build a reality based on what truly resonates with their soul. When this happens, the ties that once imprisoned them begin to lose strength, and a new sense of freedom emerges, and this freedom is transformative. The chosen one realizes that their role was never to fight against their family, but to transcend inherited pain. Pain turns into wisdom, trauma becomes fuel for evolution. And it is in this moment that they understand a profound truth. True liberation is not about escaping family toxicity, but about no longer allowing it to control their life. And when this liberation occurs, something even greater begins to manifest. True freedom is not about being away from a toxic family. It's about no longer being affected by them. Many people spend years trying to cut ties, running from the past, yet still carry the wounds these relationships left behind. This happens because liberation is not an external movement, but an internal one. As long as emotional triggers remain, as long as family opinions still weigh heavily, as long as anger or a desire for revenge exists, the cycle has not yet been broken. Being truly free means no longer reacting the same way. It means that even if the family tries to manipulate, blame, or criticize, your inner peace remains intact. This level of balance isn't achieved overnight, but through conscious effort. Practices like self-reflection, meditation, therapy, and spiritual work help strengthen this internal foundation. The great shift happens when the chosen one realizes that no one else has the power to define their worth. This freedom also reflects in life choices. Many grew up hearing that they had to follow a specific path, meet family expectations, or maintain certain traditions. But true liberation happens when the chosen one allows themselves to be who they truly are, without fear of judgment. This could mean choosing a different career, adopting an unconventional lifestyle, or simply living without needing validation from anyone. The power lies in aligning with their own truth. And when this happens, something incredible unfolds. Family toxicity stops being an obstacle. The words and actions that once caused pain no longer have the same impact. Manipulative patterns no longer find a place. The chosen one becomes emotionally and spiritually untouchable. And this transformation not only changes their life, but also influences those who will come after. When a chosen one breaks a cycle, they're not just healing themselves, they're paving the way for future generations. The pain that once repeated like an inevitable script comes to an end. Children, nieces, nephews, and even those who interact with this new energy begin to be impacted. Without realizing it, the chosen one becomes a point of transformation in their family lineage, creating a new pattern based on awareness, self-love, and emotional freedom. This process happens subtly but deeply. When someone breaks the belief that money is suffering, their children will grow up with a more prosperous mindset. If the chosen one breaks patterns of abusive relationships, future generations will have healthier relationship models. If they learn to prioritize themselves, those who come after will naturally learn to do the same. Individual healing becomes a collective gift, and even for those who won't have children, this change still ripples outward. The world needs living examples of resilience and growth. Friends, students, co-workers, everyone around them is influenced by the transformation of someone who has set themselves free. A chosen one who breaks cycles doesn't just change their story, they inspire those still trapped in past pain. The impact of their journey goes far beyond what they can imagine. In the end, the chosen one's mission was never about carrying the weight of their family or suffering in silence. It was about transcending, evolving, and showing that there is another way. Instead of being another person repeating old patterns, they become living proof that change is possible. They leave a legacy of healing and growth, proving that the past does not define the future, and that perhaps is the greatest gift anyone can leave to the world. Now that you understand why you were born into this family and the true purpose behind it, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you stay stuck in the past, holding on to resentment, or will you transform this pain into power? The cycle only repeats if you allow it to. You have the chance to change not only your story, but also that of future generations. Your true freedom isn't in changing your family, but in changing yourself. When you stop reacting the same way, stop seeking approval, and stop carrying guilt that isn't yours, something incredible happens. You become free. You become the living proof that it's possible to break patterns, heal trauma, and build a different life. But to do this, you must make a decision. and it starts now. So, tell me in the comments, what was the biggest insight you had from this video? What resonated most with your story? I want to hear your experience because it might help others going through the same process. And if this video made sense to you, don't forget to like and share. And of course, if you want to keep learning about spiritual awakening, self-knowledge, and emotional liberation, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We still have a lot to talk about, and I want to help you on this journey. See you in the next video.